Good morning, everybody. Ooh, it's a little quiet. We might need some more coffee in here, stat.
Oh, yeah. Welcome to our event. We are Amwins. My name is Jennifer Shearer. I'm part of the talent acquisition team.
And I'm Sevin Stone. I'm part of the talent acquisition team as well. I've been with Amwins for about a year and a half and couldn't imagine working anywhere else. So excited to be here with y'all today.
And at any point, if anyone has any questions or if you have questions after our presentation, just please let us know. We are here to help you in any way possible.
Righty, starting off with what is your brand? The question that I'm sure is on everyone's mind, like what is branding yourself?
So branding yourself is basically creating your own reputation. By the time you are getting to the point of graduation, you want to have something established. When you go out into the career field, you're the one in control of what others think of you. So you want to figure out how can you present yourself in the best way possible in a creative and positive environment.
Absolutely. It's really about, figuring out who you are, what you bring to the table, and it gives you a lot of confidence when you know who you are as a young professional, and it gives you a lot of confidence to speak on who you are as well once you get to that, dreaded but amazing interview stage.
And the more you get into, or out of your comfort zone, the more familiar you're going to get with your skills and your attributes and building your own brand. So it's something that's going to be with you the entire way through your career.
Absolutely. And your brand, of course, as I'm sure you can see behind us, it kind of encompasses characteristics, your personality traits, appearances, the way you present yourself physically as well, expectations, your goals, your visions for your career, where you see yourself going professionally, and then your skills as well that you really want to be attached to your reputation.
So your brand is unique to yourself. That's something you want to always remember. Stay true to yourself, what you want to do as far as your career down the line, what you want to accomplish. It's not something you have to speak to. It's something you want to kind of show and just put your best foot forward.
Absolutely. It really is about what makes you special as an individual. I know it's easy when you're in school and with your peers in the same major to kind of stick to the same characteristics that are typical of the path you want to take, but it's important to focus on those skills, of course, as well, but focus on what makes you an individual, what makes you unique, your personality and what you bring to the table. That's absolutely valuable in your professional career.
So the biggest question we get is, how do you start creating your own brand? Where does everything start? How can we basically get the ball rolling?
So the next step, of course, is just brainstorm who you are and what your strongest assets are. I really like the idea of, maybe sitting down with a pen and paper if you like that, or your phone, and just thinking on, what are the strongest skills that I bring to the table? Maybe think about what are things that people often compliment me on, like, oh, you're just so nice and personable. You're just so easy to talk to and ask questions, or you're so compassionate. You're always willing to jump in and help me when I need it. Really just sitting down and thinking about maybe what others see in you. Sometimes it's hard to think about what you see in yourself, and you can shy away from kind of bragging on yourself, but this is kind of your time. Brag on yourself. What do you bring to the table?
And don't overthink it. Usually the first things that come to your mind are usually your strongest skills. So really just build off that, really continue to strengthen those and work on adding to those as well.
Absolutely. And of course, those personality characteristics are important. They're going to follow you in your professional career, but you still want to think about these industry-specific skills that apply to what you want to do. So if you're interested in accounting, that could be your organizational skills. It could be your very numbers-driven. So those things are important too, and you'll want to definitely brainstorm on those as well.
And like we mentioned earlier, you don't have to state your brand. It's more of something you want to follow. It's your own mission statement. So having an idea of what your best traits are and how you want to put that forward and help others is what's going to really carry you along.
Absolutely. And if you do this and you find you're struggling with it, find someone you trust, maybe a great friend who can tell you things and qualities they see in you, or maybe even a professor who knows you really, really well and knows a lot about your personality. They can help to kind of draw those things out of you too. Guess next, defining yourself, creating the foundation of your personal brand. We kind of like the idea of picking just 3 to 4 kind of foundation skills. Like Jennifer said here, it's usually the things that come to your mind first. Don't think too hard on it. It's not a test. I know we are in college, so don't think too deep on it. It's usually those first 3, 4, maybe 5 things that kind of come to your mind. And we also, of course, included an example there of kind of a mission statement, something, you could maybe follow and come up with. You don't have to share it with anyone if you don't want to, though you could include it on, say, your resume or your LinkedIn. But it's kind of acts as that like guiding light for you as you're going through different experiences, gaining new knowledge. It just kind of helps you to stay the course and kind of keep in your mind of what your vision is for the future and why you've established this brand and how everything you're doing in the present is going to get you to where you want to go professionally.
So this is where we're going to talk the most about just actually getting in the process of creating your brand. So the first is really representing your brand. No matter what environment you're in, whether it's a classroom, a networking opportunity, socially, online, whatever it may be, you're always going to have people viewing you. You want to be in control of how they perceive you. So you want to be consistent. Your cover letter, your resume, everything you have published, keep it consistent, keep it clean, keep it yours. Business cards, I don't know if you all have business cards, but if you don't, it's definitely something great to have, especially in social environments and networking opportunities. You can hand out your card afterwards. Really just get your name out there, your contact information. Start that networking.
Absolutely. And we speak to a lot of students, and I've had some students ask, business cards? But I'm not starting my career yet. I don't need that. Absolutely. It's awesome to have. When you're in school and going to networking events, meeting people like us from recruitment or talent acquisition, bringing resumes with you is great, but a business card is awesome. Just that quick snapshot of your contact information. It also kind of shows a lot about your brand too, that you have that. I'm always impressed when a student whips out a business card. It's like, hey, here's my email, here's my phone number, reach out to me. That's really neat, and it says a lot about your brand, that you're organized and you're intentional about what you're doing.
And if you're more on the green side, there's QR codes that you can do as well. If you don't want to carry around the paper and hand out the physical cards, people can always scan their phones and still have your information, and it's something you can constantly update every time you add something to your portfolio.
Absolutely. And hey, if you've got good technical skills, that also kind of shows part of your brand too. You whip out a QR code, that's kind of fancy. I think it's neat.
And then dress to impress. I think a lot of your professors touch on this almost in every class, especially in the business major or business environment. You want to be presentable, you want to respect the ones around you, but you also want to be unique to yourself. So don't feel like you have to fall in that mold. Just be aware of how you present yourself. Do what makes you comfortable. Just be appropriate in the setting you're in. Absolutely.
Just about dressing professionally, but that doesn't mean you have to dress without personality. I know we always think of professional dress as like just a typical, suit and tie, but don't be afraid to add little dashes of personality in there too. I love a good funky tie,
I love the hair. When people do up their hair, I just think that really speaks a lot about their characteristic and who they are as well.
Absolutely. And of course, something we want to touch on as well is your online presence. I know that's debated a lot. Can hiring leaders or managers look at your social media profile? Can they use that in hiring decisions? All I will say is that we're all human and we're naturally a little bit nosy and we get curious about new people that we meet, and we may do a quick Google search. So sometimes things can come up. So making sure that both your personal brand, your professional brand are consistent. We always like to say, don't put anything online that you wouldn't feel comfortable saying in a job interview or to your grandma.
Absolutely. And if you still want to have your own platform personally, just maybe put it on private. Make it not as well accessed to the individuals that might be doing a little bit more research.
Absolutely. Highly recommend that, putting, profiles on private that you may not want to be public. But of course, focusing on the professional platforms as well is great. We are big proponents of LinkedIn. That's where we connect with a lot of students and keep in touch with them on what they're working on, what's going on in school and projects. So if you're not on LinkedIn yet, we would highly recommend. It is great for networking.
Absolutely. I mean, Sevin said it all. It's a good way to stay connected, especially once you do graduate and everyone kind of goes their own direction. It might be 5, 10 years till you see individuals again, but having that online platform, you're able to connect with a click or a comment, just saying like, keep up the good work. Like, we see you, we appreciate you, we respect what you're doing.
Absolutely. And you can have a lot of fun with your posts too. I've just started getting into that myself as a young professional with my brand of having fun of posting about things like this that we're getting to do and speaking with you all and different opportunities that you have. If you connect with hiring leaders that you're interested in working with, they will look at your profile. They may be curious, what have they been up to? They've talked about how they get involved at their school. They're in different organizations. They're always traveling for things. They want to see that. They want to see that demonstrated, that you are so engaged with it that you want to post and tell others about it. You don't have to be a daily poster, but maybe something once a month or once a week or bi-weekly, whatever works for you. But definitely paying attention to those posts as well as engaging with others on the platform, leaving comments, promoting things that are personal to you, important to you and your brand as well.
The next is actually walking the walk. It's not just creating the brand, it's actually putting it to a daily use. No matter what environment you are, you're always going to have individuals looking at you, kind of just figuring out who you are as an individual, as a professional, and this is where you put it to use. When you get into a job, you want to put your best foot forward, no matter whether it's actually doing the work or in a social environment. So this is where kind of the prep comes to play. You're able to actually get out there, continue to build it, and really grow what you've been doing.
Absolutely. And especially with events like this, you never know who's watching you, who's interested in you, or who's heard about you from, say, professors or staff members who said, hey, look out for this student. That happens all the time, and we do keep a lookout for you and are curious about you and what you're up to. And that applies on campus. Of course, you want to present yourself and hold yourself well, but also off campus. I've been to a lot of events where, I go out to dinner and I happen to see students off campus, and I'm like, hey, I recognize them. What are they doing over there? People are watching you, even when you don't think they are watching you. So just having that in the back of your mind, but that doesn't mean you can't be authentic and still yourself.
And one of the best ways you can put your brand to use is your work ethic. Your work really says who you are as a person. I was always brought up, don't put your name on something you're not proud of. Definitely own what you do. If you continue to put your best foot forward, really grow and ask questions, be open to opportunities, be a sponge, especially in the beginning stages where you're building your career, you're really going to be able to say, hey, I am a hardworking individual who wants to continue to grow and develop, and that's going to stick with you the rest of your career.
Absolutely. And that can start right now on campus. I know it's easy to think about this personal branding in the context of, well, when I graduate and I start my professional career, then I'll think about all that. But like Jennifer said, start now. Absolutely start now with your work ethic. Get involved in things. It doesn't have to be necessarily academic or related to your field, though that is wonderful. But you can start practicing your work ethic there. Kind of operate like you would in a professional job. Give it 110%. That really goes a long way.
Your peers are all in the same space and same time, so it's a perfect opportunity just to see like what you're capable of and really start building those skills before you get into the next phase where you might have people that you're in contact with have been in the industry for 30 plus years. So it's a little bit easier to get in with your peers. You're more comfortable. You have similar interests and more in common.
Absolutely, absolutely. And networking?
Yeah, networking. I mean, we've been touching on this the whole time. It is the number one most important thing you can do for yourself in your career. It's really just going to help you in the long run. But the most important thing to networking is you don't want to be a taker. You want to be a giver. You want to figure out how can I help these people? Because the more you help individuals, the more they're going to, want to help you in return. And it is all about trust and communication. Just like any relationship, you need to pamper it. You need to make sure that the individual you were talking to knows that you were there for them and is going to help wherever possible.
Absolutely, absolutely. And working on your confidence as well with networking. Even we get nervous at things like this or speaking to new people. It's just human nature to get nervous talking to someone new. And this is going to sound a little strange, but practice talking to yourself in the mirror and hearing your own voice. That is one of the most nerve-wracking things about presenting like this in front of people. Being in an interview, a lot of us don't realize that we don't know the sound of our own voice and how we speak. So when we're in an interview or at a networking event, especially with someone who, we find really interesting, we want to learn more from or potentially work with, it's easy to kind of get tongue-tied a little bit. You start hearing your own voice and you're like, what am I saying? I've just gone blank and I'm just rambling off at the mouth. That can happen. So just practice talking about yourself. One of the things that's the most impressive at these types of networking events is when a student will just come up and say, hi, I'm so-and-so. This is my major. These are my interests. Here's how I've been developing my skills. I've been, interested in your company, would love to learn more about what I can bring to the table for your company. When I hear that, I'm like blown away. I'm like, let's hire you right now.
Absolutely. And if you are that type of an individual, own that. Help other people get into that. Introduce your network to other networks. It's just about continuing to develop and help each other and connect on any way possible, whether it's in person, virtually, like we were mentioning earlier with like LinkedIn. It's going to help you continue to develop and mature your network.
Absolutely. And we've talked a lot about identifying the skills and the attributes that, are important to you or that you bring to the table. And we've mentioned a lot being ready to speak on those things as well. How have you practically applied those skills? It's wonderful to say, hey, I'm highly organized, I'm, team driven, I'm numbers oriented, but, we also want to hear that's wonderful. So how have you applied that? How have you gained those skills? Being able to speak on yourself is so, so important. It's one of the best pieces of advice that we could give you for networking and definitely for interviewing as well.
If you haven't heard of the STAR methodology, definitely come to our next session. We will be touching base on how to answer questions properly to where you get your point across, you get your examples across. So we won't dive too much into that here, but it's definitely a good example to follow along when actually presenting yourself.
Absolutely. Anything else you can think of, Jen, before we take some questions? At Amwins, we're very conversational when we do these things. We love to speak with you and hear kind of what's on your mind, if you have any questions or things you've been wondering about. I think we had actually a couple questions in the chat if you want me to bring those up.
Does anyone have any questions before we pull this up? Yep. Yeah, great question. So a lot of us have that communication piece. It's how do you present that? I know it's harder to put on a piece of paper, but when you're in an interview or you're in a social environment, just like, hey, I love communicating. I realize it's not just about speaking, it's about listening, it's about processing, it's about figuring out how can we help each other. So really just talking to your experience instead of just listing it will definitely help you set yourself apart from others with similar characteristics.
Anything else on anyone's mind? Oh, absolutely. So we're Amwins. We're a wholesale insurance firm. When I tell people about Amwins, I always say the joke that we're not Jake from State Farm, because that's the first thing everyone thinks is, oh, you do like homeowners, and we do those things, but we specialize in like hard to place risks. So if your retail agent for your homeowner's policy or is coming to us, it's probably because you have a more difficult to place risk. We kind of can act as that go-between between an agent, an insurance carrier, and market to help place those more difficult risks.
We have 5 divisions, so we do a little bit of everything in the insurance realm, but we really specialize in that property and casualty piece.
Yep, we have brokerage, which is more of our sales-based. We have underwriting, which is more critical thinking, analytical. We also have a group benefits division as well, focused on healthcare. So lots of different areas to get involved in if you're interested in insurance.
And we're nationwide. We're actually a global company, but we actively recruit for about 115 locations nationwide. So opportunities everywhere.
Absolutely, and we're headquartered in Charlotte. Don't know where everyone's from. That's our headquarters, but like Jennifer said, a lot of different opportunities around the country depending on where you're from and where you want to be after school.
Anyone else? Okay, we have a couple questions that we're going to answer.
All right, first question is how can you market yourself when you don't have a lot of experience?
Great question, especially because everyone starts with no experience. So it's really just owning who you are. It's being able to talk to your experiences you've already had. Whether it is, a group project or a sports team, you're always going to have some type of interaction, whether it's teamwork or communication or organization, time management. Just being able to have examples ready to go when people are asking you what are your strengths? Don't just list them out. Actually give them some meat to the conversation so they know who you are as an individual.
Absolutely. And looking at everything in life as an opportunity to grow. I know these kinds of conversations always seem to be centered around some kind of professional experience, but everything in your life is an opportunity. It's okay to reflect on maybe some of your personal life as well and how you flex those skills if you don't have the practical experience yet. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
And be open to the opportunities. You never know who you're going to meet, what they have to offer, whether it is a piece of advice or an actual job, whatever it may be, just be open. You have a long time to explore what works for you. So just welcome whatever comes your way.
And next question is, what is the most important topic to mention when marketing yourself? Yeah, I can take this one. Absolutely. So I think one of the most important things to mention when you're talking about marketing yourself and branding is, we kind of touched on this a little bit, it's just being a sponge and being willing to learn. That is one of the most impressive things we can hear from a young professional is, I'm ready to jump right in and go. Whatever you put in front of me, I may ask a lot of questions and that's okay, but I'm here and ready to learn. When I speak with hiring leaders and when they're looking to bring on new graduates, someone coming into the industry, that is one of the top things, if not the top thing that they always mention. Someone who hires you right out of school, they know that you're an investment. They know that you're new to whatever industry you're going into, and they understand that it's going to take at least a year, but probably more like 2 or 3 years to really ramp you up, to get you that base knowledge. School is a great foundation, but things will definitely change when you're actually in your chosen industry and you're learning how to do your job according to whatever company that you're working for.
And I'm going to add to that, don't be afraid of making mistakes. That's how you learn. That's how you grow. You continue to figure out what works, what doesn't work. So ask those questions and don't be afraid to try it on your own if you want to be a little bit more resourceful. You can definitely take advantage of that. There's always people around you who are willing to help. We've all started in the same place. So just have those conversations, be open, ask questions. It's really going to help you set yourself apart and really just help you in the long run.
I love that. Absolutely. Mistakes are going to happen. We have all been there in our career where we go, oops, I don't think that was the way that was supposed to be done. But one thing that should probably be a part of everyone's branding is accountability as well. Realizing when you do something and it doesn't work out how you intended, being able to go to a coworker, a manager, supervisor and say, hey, this may not have gone exactly how we wanted it to, but is there anything you think I can learn from this? Is there anything you think I could do better in the future to prevent this from happening again or to help someone else who's in a similar situation? So even when you have those stumbles, and I hate to break it to you, it is definitely going to happen. It happens to everyone in a professional career. Always having that mindset of, okay, how do I push through this? How do I push forward? Accountability, perseverance, I think that should be a part of everyone's brand.
Wonderful. Any other questions before we wrap it up? Yes.
When apply for positions that might be 10,000 of applications, how do you, what's your advice on standing out or keeping in touch with those positions?
So from a personal standpoint, I love when students or applicants reach out to me virtually through LinkedIn. It shows that they are doing the research, they care about the position, and they're interested in having a conversation. I think both of us at this point, if people reach out to us, we're going to respond. We want to have a conversation, figure out, is this the right fit for this role, or is this going to be the right fit for another role we might have down the line? It really just helps standing out because, we do see thousands of resumes all the time. So they start to blur at times, but the individuals that go above and beyond, that really show that they want to have a conversation or are interested in it, it's really going to help you stand out. Also, cover letters. We don't see a lot of those anymore. I know it's time consuming, but what I recommend is have a template ready. Change it to the job, change it to the company, make some tweaks, but you can use that foundation for every job you're interested in. It's going to help save time, and it's also going to help really show that you do care and you want to at least be considered for the opportunity.
Absolutely. I love that you touched on cover letters too, because that's the first thought I had is we're kind of moving towards a generation that kind of maybe thinks of that as a little bit stuffy. We're like, is that really necessary? It's just going to end up in the trash. But again, you're in a generation that doesn't really do that anymore, and that's what makes you stand out. Whenever I go through applications, resumes, and I see a cover letter, I read it. I read it every time. For one, I'm curious if they used a template, if they changed it. But also, I'm curious, it kind of gives you a chance to make a little bit of a statement for yourself. Who is this person? I see a resume, I see qualifications and experience, and that's great, but that's kind of like your little, what we touched on in branding, your mission statement. It goes a little bit deeper into who you are as a person. Of course, Jennifer, I love you touched on following up. Do not be afraid to follow up with recruiter, hiring manager, whoever you know is in charge of that particular position. It's not a bother. It does not bother us at all. It shows a lot of enthusiasm, motivation. You're engaged. Like, you want this opportunity, and I promise you, you will be at the forefront of my mind because you're in my inbox and I'm getting to chat with you and learn more about you. I know it's a little nerve-wracking being like, am I being weird sending this message on LinkedIn? Is she gonna think, or he's gonna think that's strange? It's not strange at all. It blows us away as recruiters, but I can tell you from experience speaking with hiring leaders, it blows them away. I get tons of emails every day of forwards like, hey, Sevin, look at this candidate. Like, they just, went out of their way to email me and tell me a little bit about themselves. I'm so impressed. Like, you need to touch base with them. They notice and they like it.
And after the interview, always follow up. No matter what the situation is, even if you decide it's not going to be a good fit for you, always follow up. Say thank you. You never know when you're going to cross paths with that individual again. So having that constant courtesy and respect on both sides is really going to help you continue to stand out. It might be 5 years with a different company, but it's still going to continue to show that you do care.
Absolutely. And even following up and saying thanks when opportunities don't work out as well. Just because one position, one role wasn't the right fit, we as recruiters, our job is to make sure we're kind of keeping a pipeline, keeping a pulse on the talent that's out there. You never know when something else is going to come up. I was actually resume hunting through my pipeline yesterday, looking for candidates I've spoken to that really stood out to me. And the candidates at the top of my list were the ones who got that, hey, thanks, but I don't think this is going to be a fit, who responded and said, thank you so much for the opportunity. It was a pleasure speaking with you. Hope to have a chance to connect in the future. That really stands out and shows you have a lot of professionalism and generally just a good, personable person. People like good people.
Other questions? Go ahead.
Yep.
Yeah, it's more about reading the room, figuring out how are you clicking, whether it's common interest or just being energetic. Biggest advice is just stay positive. Never talk negative about yourself, about other individuals, companies. Just be more reserved to start, feel out the room, feel out the conversation, and then start to show yourself a little bit more. I would not go in there guns blazing, like, hey, this is who I am, this is what I want to accomplish. Let the conversation naturally happen, and you'll get your point across.
Absolutely. And as young professionals, even just people in general, a lot of times we can conflate confidence with more aggression. So when some people are trying to relay that they're confident, sometimes it can come on a little bit too strong and you're like, whoa, okay, it feels a little bit aggressive. So confidence isn't necessarily being forceful about who you are and trying to project that onto someone. It's just speaking candidly about who you are. You can still be, personable. You can even maybe be a little soft-spoken. I've met tons of soft-spoken people who I can tell are clearly confident in themselves. So I definitely want to let you know confidence does not mean aggression. We got another question. It said, when networking, what are key points to touch on when having to quickly talk about yourself and be remembered?
I would just open up saying like, thank you for your time. I know it is limited. I appreciate just getting to know you, but I want to let you know like I'm open to opportunities. I'm open to having more conversations, whatever it may be, whether it's scheduling a call afterwards or figuring out like, hey, can we meet up for coffee next week? Just really kind of stating that you want to connect and you're thankful for their time really will show like, okay, this person is serious. It's not just another contact collected. It's actually going to be a meaningful relationship down the line.
Absolutely. And don't be afraid to come up with your little, what we call, I'm sure you know in business, elevator pitch on yourself. It goes back to that thing of kind of looking at yourself in the mirror, looking at how you're coming across when you're talking to yourself, hearing what you're saying, coming up with maybe a 60-second pitch on yourself. Like I said, something impressive when I meet students is when they come up confident and they're like, hi, Sevin, nice to meet you. I'm so-and-so. Here's my major. Here are my interests. Here's how I've been developing my skills. I would love to connect with you. Just that quick little elevator pitch on yourself. You know, if you're someone who you like to prepare ahead of time, that is so me. I'm very anxious. I like to be prepared. So I definitely like to kind of have that in my head. So coming up with that and kind of practicing it and making sure it comes out smooth. If you want to take it a step further, find a friend, maybe a professor, someone you trust who can kind of, you know, put you on the spot in a sense and come up and say, hey, I'm so-and-so, and you hit them with your elevator pitch. You know, find someone you can practice with as well if you enjoy that. Says the next question, in the insurance industry, how much of the job is marketing yourself compared to other factors like the ability to speak with people and understanding risk?
That is a great question. So they definitely do tie in a lot of the time. So as you know, the insurance industry, it is a relationship business. It is helping each other, whether it is placing a risk or just kind of connecting you to someone else. So being able to effectively speak and communicate, you know, what your strengths are, what your goals and visions are, that's going to help you find like-minded people and help you find people that might help you if you have difficulty with other subjects.
Absolutely. And those technical skills will come with time, with practical experience, you know, understanding the risk, and even some of the ability to talk with people as it relates to insurance or whatever your chosen industry is. You know, that comes with time, and definitely make sure that you're continuing to practice. But marketing yourself is definitely important. Having a presence for yourself. People are willing to invest in you and to build up your skills, even if you may not be quite at the top level yet. They're more willing to take a chance on you when you have that clear established reputation, brand, and presence. I think that is everything. Does anyone have any more questions? Alrighty, y'all. Well, thank you so much for attending with us today. Appreciate it.
If anyone needs anything, please feel free to reach out to us. We are here to help. We love helping no matter what it may be. If we can't help, we'll find you someone that can help you.
Yeah, feel free to come up and chat with us, connect with us on LinkedIn. We've got business cards. We'll be happy to speak with you. So thank y'all again.
Thank you.